Welcome back. This is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler here in the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom. Thanks for joining us. We cover a wide range of topics here on the show, but for May, it is Mental Health Awareness Month. And one of the things we've been talking about is different ways that people are tackling mental health concerns. One of those has to do with younger girl athletes and some of the concerns that are associated with that, in that it makes them or has them leading to dropping out of athletics altogether. We're going to talk to an expert on this right now, which is not me. We've got Coach Bree joining us right now from Columbia River High School, the head coach of volleyball. If I'm looking at this right, there's so many different things you've accomplished, but is it four state championships, 4 straight state championships, a coach of the year? You have so many things that you've accomplished. Bree, I really appreciate you being here. And I think to start off, would you mind walking through some of that for us, just to understand everything that you do?
Of course, and happy to be here. Of course, a lot of people know Columbia River volleyball for the success that we've had and the championships, and that doesn't come without a lot behind the scenes happening. So the families, the administration, the girls, it's a culmination of a lot of things. But yeah, I've been the head volleyball coach at Columbia River for 12 years now. I've been in coaching for about 14, and absolutely love it. It's one of my life's work. I'm also the co-founder of a company called The Elite Competitor that provides mental training resources for girl athletes and their families. So I got to incorporate a lot of that into my coaching at River, but it didn't come right away. So I know we're going to get into it, but it is one of the things that made a big difference in some of the success that we've had, because the pressure is real, and what athletes are facing nowadays is unlike anything I experienced as an athlete. Even somebody who played in college, I'm like, gosh, these athletes are facing a lot more as the years go by. So yeah, we can start there.
Yeah, I think that's a great starting point. I mean, with all that success and everything, but talking about that, seeing those changes, I think it's good for people who may not be in this world to understand, what some of those pressures are and what some of the big changes are that you've seen over the years that's causing some of those other pressures for some of these athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the research is pretty clear around this. The National Alliance for Youth Sports actually, and echoed by the Aspen Institute of Project Play in their initiative, talks about how athletes are dropping out of sports at 70%. 70% of them by the age of 13 have quit their sport. And the Women's Sports Foundation has found that girl athletes are quitting their sport at 2 times the rate of boys. And we're like, okay, when we get those numbers in there, what is going on here? And I was one of those athletes too. I actually walked away from my sport after my senior year of high school because of the pressures I was feeling, even though I was like a highly recruited athlete. So I have experienced that firsthand. I got another opportunity to play at an amazing college at Western Washington University, where that coach actually did provide some mental training resources for us. And I got to see the power of kind of how this works. And when I started coaching, right out of college, I started noticing that my players are facing pressures. They're facing just this feeling of they need to be perfect, and anything less than perfection is not good enough. And they start to tie some of their feelings about themselves and their identity and their worth to their performance and how they do that day in practice or how they do in a game. And a lot of that is, the rise of social media and some of the pressures that parents and coaches are putting on athletes to specialize really early. But all of this is really culminating to a place where athletes are facing it, but they don't have the tools to necessarily navigate it. And so about 6 years into my coaching career at River, actually fueled by watching my own teams kind of stumble and fall apart mentally in situations where I'm like, gosh, we should have done better. We should have actually made it to state this year. We have the talent. It's definitely not a lack of talent. It's not a lack of training. It's not a lack of support on the physical side, but it definitely is a lack of ability to manage the moment and the nerves and the pressure that come with the big stages. And so I went back to become certified to teach some of these skills to my own athletes. And that was about 6 years ago. And it didn't really hurt us. I'll tell you that. But it gives athletes now tools to navigate the normal pressures of being an athlete.
Right, what the normal is for these younger athletes. Yeah, what they're going through with those kind of pressures. And you're right, I didn't have to go through that myself either. So yeah, I can only imagine, what that kind of pressure brings. So talking about those tools that you've figured out to give to them, to start off, could you Talk to us a little bit about, what some of those tools are, what some of the ways are that they can help manage some of those pressure points to get back to enjoying athletics.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the number one things that I tell athletes is the skill that will separate a good athlete from a great athlete is how fast they get over things that don't go their way, because sports are full of opportunities where things are going sideways and mistakes are happening. Refs are making calls that they didn't agree with. Coaches are, saying things, teammates, like there's just so much. And the athlete that can move through that and adapt the fastest is the one that has the competitive advantage and the one that is probably going to have the most fun because they're not being, kind of held back by some of those things that are out of their control. And average athletes just let some of those things impact them. They will blame those things on their performance. But one of the first skills that I teach athletes at the beginning of the season is a way to get over mistakes in like 2 seconds. So we call this their snapback routine. So we do a little workshop at the beginning of the season where we identify a routine. It's a combination of a breath, a reset word, a reset signal that gives them a tangible tool to use in those moments. Because most athletes will tell you, like, I don't want to, have one mistake and then have it turn into two, three, four. But what happens is they don't have a way to get over it. And so they make a mistake. And then instead of just like bouncing back and getting on to the next play, they get in their head and they think about what just happened. They're worried about like what people are thinking. They're worried about being taken out. And so then the next play, they're hesitating and they're holding back. And that causes them to make more mistakes. And then we call this a spiral. And any coaches that are listening or any parents that are listening to this know what that looks like on the court or on the field. Like their body language changes. And then as a coach, you're like, I'm kind of stuck here because I now have to pull you out and help you get back in the game. But that is not always going to happen in the time that we have. And so giving them a routine, just like a 2-second tool that they can use in that moment, has been a huge game changer for them because now they can play more confidently knowing they have a way to get over it. And we teach a lot of other tools that are rooted in sports psychology, like visualization. We do daily mindset routine, breath work. We've got, self-talk. We talk about like limiting beliefs, all of that. But the snapback routine has been the one that they keep coming back to, and their reset word, because it gives me a common language to help them in those moments. It came up in our last state championship where we were down championship point. It was this situation. We were playing this team that's very good. I mean, once you get to the championship, it's like both teams are very good. But we were in a season where it was a little surprising, to be honest, to be in that championship. Like we got there and we were playing this really good team. You look across the net, it's like 6-1, 6-2, 6-3. She's going to Oregon. She's going to Gonzaga. And we weren't. And we get in this situation where we're down, like championship point, meaning the other team is serving. They are serving at point 24. You need 25 to win. And we had 23 points. Their fans were on their feet. There was like, okay, they hadn't won a state championship in 36 years. And so the whole place was like, here we go. It's going to be over. And as a coach, I'm like, okay, well, in the back of my mind, if I'd be lying if I didn't tell you, like, second place is not so bad, but see what we can do. I call a timeout. Luckily, I had one, and I didn't tell them anything about strategy. I didn't tell them anything about, like, we had got to this point, on our skill and our strategy. Like, they didn't need that in that moment. And so I said, let's do our snapback routine. Like, say your breath, or do your breath, say your reset word. They go out, we side out. That means we actually got the point. Okay. So now it's tied up. You got to win by 2. And my sophomore goes back to serve. And, a sophomore in that big stage, like, she hadn't played on varsity before. She hadn't been to state tournament. I was like, I love this for us. Let's see what we can do. So she goes, she serves the other side of the net. They just lost that momentum a little bit. Okay. So this team, they set their best hitter, which I would too, right? She goes up, this 6'2" girl about to pound it. She hits it out of bounds. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. That hasn't happened, most of the match. They're getting a little rattled. So we now only need 1 point to stay alive in this match now. So my sophomore is still serving. She serves, ball goes in. They kind of mess up the other team. Like, they kind of have this botched play. And I'm like, what is going on over there? They free ball the ball. Free ball is like a really easy play in volleyball. And they free ball the ball into the net. So 2 unforced errors to give us the win in that set, put us into a 5th set. And we ended up taking that set and winning state. And that was like the biggest display of like this tool, just coming back to the present moment. That sophomore got interviewed afterwards by a reporter. And the reporter asked her, what were you thinking? Like in that moment, that was a big pressure moment. And she goes, all I was doing was my breath and my reset word, my breath and my reset word. And I was like, holy cow, I'm so glad that we gave them a tool, that they could actually use in those moments. So that is one of the ones that has come up big for us.
I mean, that's amazing. I feel like that's a good tool for just life in general to have something like
Mhm.
that for any kind of pressure, but especially there in the athletics and obviously showing the success of how that's worked that, you gave that athlete something to focus on to get through that. When you talk about, these tools that you've created, what's your ultimate goal for the organization and just for, to help keep some of these younger athletes in sports?
hmm That's the goal. That's the
That's it.
goal is to keep them playing. We know that girls who stay in sports, they're more likely to hold positions of leadership as they go into their careers. And we know that these girls are becoming women who are leading, who are becoming moms. Like all of these skills that transfer to life, we need them to have them now, and they can't have them if they're quitting sports. And so the ultimate goal of the elite competitor, of the company, of the skills that I teach, in my own program with river athletes is to keep them playing, okay? Because we know the benefits go well beyond the sport. But also, these skills, like you said, a lot of what we teach, these are mental skills that go beyond their sport. Families that invest in our program are like, yeah, I'm doing it for her sport, but also this is for her as a person. I want my daughter to, show up confidently in her relationships, to get over setbacks in a way that's empowering and not let hard times kind of bring her down. So, like, all of these are very useful tools that go well beyond the sport, and that's the goal.
And having done it now, for a number of years, have you been able to speak to some of the athletes that have probably, moved on and graduated and, when they come back and talk to them about any of this?
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's like the most rewarding thing. So not only, in my own program, we have athletes who have graduated and they come back and they're speaking to athletes about the importance of this, or they're like, this is so rare that you're getting this. And actually, funny enough, next week, one of my players, Sydney Dreves, she was a standout player for me. She's playing volleyball right now at Boise State. She is coming into our community of athletes. So within our company, we do live calls to support athletes, middle school and high school athletes in our program. And Sydney wants to come back and speak to these athletes about the importance of the mental game and what it's like playing in college now and how she's using these skills in college that she learned in high school on how to stay present, on how to deal with the pressure, because now the pressure's on a whole nother level. And so that's super rewarding because it's like, oh wow, they're taking this not just right here in high school, but they're going into college with it too.
Yeah, taking it and succeeding at that next level and then passing it on back down,
Yeah. Mhm.
How does it feel for you, to know that you've worked through this, created this toolkit for these athletes and to see them utilize it and succeed like that?
Yeah, when they say that this intersection of your career and doing what you love, like I couldn't ask for anything more than that. And um, we want the goal to be to keep them in sports and to empower them and to actually get the feedback that it's working, that this is happening. I mean, that's what keeps me in it. So it feels amazing.
Congratulations. That's awesome. And just for all the help you're doing. Anything else that you think is important for people to know?
I think a lot of parents are wondering like, oh, well, how do I help with this? And that's why in our program, half of the program is actually for parents because a lot of parents are well intended, but their advice isn't landing, or they're saying things they're actually unintentionally adding more pressure when we're focusing a lot on the outcome. And they're like, I don't know why my daughter's so hard on herself, or she's super critical. And we're like, well, what feedback and what have we been emphasizing? What have we been praising? Like her whole sports career, that what she does is who she is, and we got to delink that. So I know that there's a lot of parents that are listening and would probably benefit from the resources that we have on the parenting side of things. So I do want to mention that because on our Instagram and on our podcast, there's a lot of resources for parents who are wondering like, how do I support my athlete mentally through their sports career without screwing it up for them? So we got you.
There we go. Well, for people who want to find out more information, you just mentioned Instagram and the podcast, but where are some places that they can go?
Yeah, Instagram is a great place to start. I'm at Elite Competitor Coach there. We have a podcast that we release episodes on weekly. It's called Raising Elite Competitors, same with YouTube. So those are places where we host free content. We also have a free training for sports parents. That's at trainhergame.com. So all of that will give you a really good entry point into the work that we do and how we help athletes.
Well, Coach, thank you for joining us here. It's very inspiring what you're doing, but also just so important, as you mentioned, to keep these girls in athletics, and just for so many reasons. And you've figured it out. I mean, I think 4 championships, means you kind of know what you're talking about. So
It also
congratulations.
it
Go
also
ahead.
means I got amazing community behind me, but thank you.
That too. That too. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure talking to you. Really appreciate your time here on Fox 12 Now.
Thank you so much.
And for everybody watching, we are live streaming here at the Fox 12 Oregon Newsroom. We've got plenty more for you this afternoon. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and continue on with more here on Fox 12 Now.